Welcome to this week's episode of Listen to Your Coaches. I'm your coach, Mike Wilkins, here with Coach Will Morrill. This week, we're going to touch on some Craig Jones Invitational news, how that relates to the ADCC World Championships, kind of keeping you up on that. We're going to talk some Stout PGH fight news, some current events, recent happenings, some fights that went down last weekend. And then we're going to finish off with some stadium Muay Thai talk. All right, so let's jump into it. We're going to start Craig Jones Invitational. Will, you tell me you got some questions?
I certainly do. So, as someone who's much more of a casual jiu-jitsu fan than you are, I find this whole thing just like fascinating. And Craig Jones, just as a character, is like so fascinating. And
Yes.
this whole thing, I'm loving it. So, I have some questions.
Prepared questions. All
Prepared
right, let's go.
questions based on
And I have some prepared answers.
some of the things that we discussed last time, as well as some things I've been seeing on Instagram and such. I did go back and listen to some of the podcasts with Jones on like on Rogan and stuff. So I'm a little bit more informed now about what's going on, and man, am I fired up! All right, so the first one is, who of note has gone to CJI since we last talked? There's only one person who really stands out to me, and that's Nolf, and like who I'm like real familiar with.
Oh, brother.
And I really want to know how you
brother,
think Nolf's gonna do.
you are so far behind.
Oh, I can't wait.
Oh,
Because there's a
okay.
lot of names that like I'm like, oh, I've heard of this guy, but it doesn't
All right.
mean anything to me.
So I'm not really sure where it was last episode.
When we last talked, the notable people were who I knew already were like Rockhold, Nicky Rod, and Nicky Ryan, and then you kind of like filled me in on.
I know Fionn was already announced that she would have
Mm-hmm.
a super fight. I know that. So here goes the thing. The order of announcements came the Tackett brothers,
we
all
talked
right?
about them.
Nicky Ryan. So it was the Tackett brothers, then Luke Rockhold, then Nicky Ryan, Nicky Rod, then Joseph Chen.
I think that's all we discussed.
Oh, I know
One or two more.
Mason Fowler was definitely discussed.
That's right.
And I'm not sure if we talked about Roberto Jimenez. I think I did because he won the black belt absolute IBJJF.
Yep.
So we made it at least to Roberto Jimenez and Joseph Chen. So those are separate weight categories. Okay. So, as we discussed before, there are two weight categories. These will be 16-man brackets, all right, each of them. So there'll be 32 of them, 16 in the under 80 kilo weight class, 16 in the over 80 kilo weight class. And then there'll be some super fights as well.
Right.
Announced super fights would be, Craig Jones, and then defending under 60 kilo ADCC world champion from 2022, Fionn Davies.
I got some questions about that super fight.
All right, she's announced. She now has her opponent announced, which is big.
Yeah.
And Nolf is definitely a big get, which is somebody who was not announced at the time of the last recording when we touched on this. But the whole thing has been shaken up dramatically by two very important additions that, in my opinion, have been the strongest, like borderline nail in the coffin.
Ooh, lay it on me.
Not necessarily, but like getting
No,
there.
I feel you. I feel you.
All right, so let me run you through, just some names. Let's start with the heavier guys, the over 80. All right, so I'm going to go in the order in which they were announced into the tournament.
Right.
All right, so we've got William Tackett, Luke Rockhold. All right, Nick Rodriguez, Nicky Rod, two-time ADCC silver medalist. Mason Fowler, who we spoke about him last time, very accomplished, very good. Roberto Jimenez, all right, who was a South American Trials champion for the last 80s, for the 2022 ADCC, and he most recently was the 2023 black belt no-gi world champion for the absolute, for the open weight class division. Then we move on to Zhao Hocha, Victor Hugo had a great win last night on Who's Number One. Victor Hugo also has a win over, I believe he had, I'm like 99% sure he has a recent win over Nicky Rod.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Victor Hugo, honestly, right now, we did some too early predictions in like my jiu-jitsu like group chat basically, and I went with my too early predictions. I went with like Nicky Rod winning it over Victor Hugo, and I'm struggling with that.
Oh, okay. So
Like
it's
I right now in that upper weight class, I feel like it's between Victor Hugo and Nicky Rod. Like, you know what I mean? And and I'm 99% sure that Victor Hugo has a win over him this year. Owen Livesey, who's like he's like a European guy, real good judo. He actually just won the or no, it ended up being a draw. He was the Polaris main event this past last weekend. Felipe Andrew, who is a prominent gi player, does no gi, but
right, that's his main,
like #1 ranked black belt in the world in the gi,
Gotcha.
like open weight. He competes like all the time. Max Jimenez and Adam Bradley. So like, and a lot of these guys were going to be in the ADCC and are like,
they're directly taken away from that competition.
Yeah, like William Tackett,
right,
Nicky Rod, Mason Fowler, Roberto Jimenez.
And like you said, it's not like these are just
Victor
dudes.
Hugo.
Like, these are legit
Adam Bradley.
guys.
Yeah, these are guys who were going to be in the ADCC bracket who were like sliding the Craig Jones. All right, so then let's move down before I touch on -80, the under 80 kilo, because that's going to be my favorite.
Okay.
Right? Let's touch on the super fights. So, Craig Jones, Gabby Garcia, funny, but it's just funny.
So that's one of my questions, though.
It's not like I'm absolutely not even interested in watching it.
See, it's funny because
but it's just like funny that it's a thing.
That's like one of the matches I'm like most interested in.
Well, here goes the thing. Like he's been calling her out for like 4 years, and like they're in on it. Like, you know what I mean?
I've seen the
like
videos.
They've got videos of them to get like cooking together.
Right.
There's videos of her
arm wrestling.
like arm wrestling, like her like holding him up against the wall, like a chokehold, like pinned against the wall and stuff. Like it's funny. But like I don't care about that. Like they could be like, oh no, we were just kidding, and I'd be like, yeah, it's fine. Well, like I've already got everything I need.
Exactly, you got your entertainment.
Like I don't need to see the match.
See, for me, and again, I think that's the difference between you and me. Is like I like the freak show fights and stuff. You know what I mean? And like the old like pride.
Well, the match is just gonna be like.
So that's
gonna be like jokey.
Did I have a specific question about it? I think so. Yeah. Okay. So I did have a question about that. How do you see that match going? Do you think that they're actually gonna like go for real, or do you think it's going to be kind of like
I don't know. I really don't know. I feel like Gabby's going to go for real, and Craig's going to like let Gabby do things for a while.
Do you think he's going to let her win?
No, I don't. But that would be funny.
Do you think she could win?
No shot.
She's bigger.
It doesn't matter. She loses to women who are like around 150 pounds.
We're going to talk about that soon too.
Yeah. So like, not that like. I think like I'm not trying to disparage it, but like
no, she's obviously a great jiu-jitsu athlete, but Craig Jones is like really good.
Yeah, Craig Jones is super good.
Yeah.
So whatever. With that being said, and now let's get into the most recent announced super fight, 2022 ADCC gold medalist, Fionn Davies. She's like the Taylor Swift of jiu-jitsu. Like everybody loves her.
Okay.
You know what I mean, type of thing. And it has just been announced that she will be competing in a super fight against 2015 under 60 ADCC kilo, under 60 ADCC gold medalist and UFC star Mackenzie Dern,
who also has a win over Gabby Garcia.
And she was the under 60 champ, meaning under 132 pounds, and she fights. Does she fight 115? She fights 115.
So.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Dern.
Where's your phone?
It's over there. I believe you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think she definitely. I think she fights 115.
That's incredible. So they obviously met in absolute, or was it a super fight?
This was an absolute, but I think it was in the gi.
Really?
Yeah. This was not. So ADCC this year will be the first year that they do an absolute for women. ADCC. Prior to this year, it was only 2 weight classes, under 60 kilo, over 60 kilo, which is like 132 pounds, and only 8 women brackets. So 8 women under 60, 8 women over. This year for ADCC, they've added a third weight, which changed the weights.
Right.
So now it's under 55, under 65, and then over 65.
What's that in pounds? That's like
143.5. 65 kilo?
What's the bottom one?
Oh, 55 kilos, 122. Or 121. It's 121 and like 0.2 or something.
Right, yeah.
Right? So roughly 121, 143, and then over.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And now they're going to do an open weight for them, but there's still 8 women brackets.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah, so there'll be 24 women at the ADCC championships.
So, okay, let's talk about this super fight for a minute then. So, Mackenzie Dern has obviously been training MMA for the past however many years.
Yeah.
However, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, I'd be willing to bet that she's been spending a lot of that time still doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I would be actually leaning towards she's probably spending a majority of her time doing striking due to having already been being like who's she going against in MMA that her jiu-jitsu isn't like a literal like head above level.
Man, see,
So I would assume that most of her time has been spent striking.
Have you seen her last few fights?
No.
It looks like she's been working a lot of jiu-jitsu.
Okay, well maybe takedowns in wrestling or whatever.
Yeah.
But like you know what I mean, like her jiu-jitsu is already just so good.
But I guess this is what I'm asking though is like, do you think that her jiu-jitsu, her pure sport jiu-jitsu, has diminished in that time?
Yes.
Okay.
Not only would I have guessed that it would diminish sport jiu-jitsu, because I also experienced that myself, and I think that's like a common. I mean, you're splitting your time.
You have a million things to learn.
You went from once, like your morning practice is jiu-jitsu, your night practice is jiu-jitsu, to now. So like you're training jiu-jitsu twice a day. Let's say you're training 6 days a week because you have a rest day. You're getting 12 jiu-jitsu sessions in a week.
Right.
All right. Now you fight MMA. All right. So between those 12 sessions, you got to split that up now between jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, Muay Thai, right? You know what I mean? Maybe even some like strength training if you didn't already have that in there. But at the very least 4.
Right, yeah.
Right? So if you do everything equally, you're now getting 3. So you went from 12 sessions a week to 3. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was less, if it was like loaded more towards the wrestling and striking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like even if you kept everything equal and now you're getting 3 sessions a week, you're at 25% of what you were at. And the sessions are likely going to be different because they're not as sport specific, which matters at the highest level.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
so let me ask you this, right?
Because then now you're getting into tactics over technique.
Yeah. Okay. So, even technique wise, like if
technique for sure.
Like if we took like a pure Muay Thai guy, right? And we're training a lot of like shin blocks, and maybe we're doing some.
You're talking about the evolution of the sport.
No, I'm talking about the differences between MMA and whatever the pure one is. So shin blocks are a great example. If I have a Muay Thai fighter, we're going to be doing a lot of shin blocking, right? If I have an MMA fighter, they might be training with that Muay Thai guy and doing striking drills and whatever. But I'm probably not going to have them do as much shin blocking because you can't do it in MMA, right? Are there any equivalents?
Yeah. Yeah, there's equivalent stuff of that. Like, for example, the leg entanglement game, right? Right now, from MMA, the leg entanglement game is not as prominent, although it will become very prominent in a way used more for position, I believe, as opposed to submission. And I think it's going to be a wave that's going to come in, and it's going to be like a big deal when this happens. So there's that, right? Which is a huge part of jiu-jitsu now, right? It's in a huge part. And when did it become a huge part of jiu-jitsu?
2010-ish, something like that.
No, dude, like 2015, like right after Mackenzie Dern finished.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so, like right after Mackenzie Dern was like, I'm going MMA. Then like leg locks started coming in like to be like this like crazy prominent thing. Like think about like
Dan
Gordon
Hurd squad, yeah.
Like, all right, I'm talking heel hooks, I'm talking leg entanglements, I'm talking domination by leg entanglements.
Right.
First person that comes to mind.
Gordon Ryan, Gary Tonin.
Okay, Gordon Ryan, Gary Tonin. All right. When did Gordon Ryan become first like a big name?
Yeah, probably right a little after that, 2016, something like that.
How did Gordon Ryan do in the 2015 ADCC championships that Mackenzie Dern won? How did he do?
Was he even there?
No.
Oh, there you go.
He did not debut yet.
Wasn't he like 18 or something at that point?
Dude, yeah, probably. Maybe even younger. But his first ADCC was 2017.
Wow.
In 2017, he won the 88 kilo, 194 pound bracket, and then took second in the absolute, losing to Felipe Pena. Right? And then in 2019, he went up a weight to 99 kilo, which is 218 pounds. He won that, and then he won the absolute, the open weight, which then qualified him for the super fight for the next one, which was between Andre Galvao and Felipe Pena. Andre Galvao beat Felipe Pena, so now it's Andre versus Gordon at the 2021 ADCC championships, which got pushed back a year due to COVID. So now it's the 2022 ADCC Championships, and Gordon became the first super fight athlete to ever compete in the bracket. And so he couldn't compete in the absolute. So he competed in the plus 99, the heavyweight bracket. He won that, 4 submissions. He won that. And then he beat
is that the one where Nicky Rod broke his foot or something?
No, that was at like an EBI UFC fight, but that was at like a different thing.
But he did grapple Nicky Rod in the final.
Yeah, he like subbed him in like under a minute.
Oh, that's right.
He like gave him his leg,
and then
took it down, and then
oh, that's right.
And he couldn't do. They wouldn't let Gordon do the absolute because if he wins the absolute, then this ADCC super fight is Gordon versus Gordon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, so that's that. Yeah. So like I think one of the big things we're gonna see is like, all right, now Fionn, she's a phenomenal like grappler all the way around. So I'm sure her leg locks are very high level skill, but like when I think of her, I'm not thinking like, oh, leg locks, right? Like I'm just thinking, I'm thinking like a complete game.
Right.
She has a complete game. But with that being said, that complete game has to involve the leg locks. So I would imagine that she has an advantage over Mackenzie Dern in that area. And honestly, she might have I'm taking her.
Okay,
that's my pick.
Let me ask you this too, because I think this is interesting. So Mackenzie Dern has been doing, I assume, a lot of training against the wall and with a cage. Now, with a roughly 45-degree angle, do you think that's going to hinder her and that these techniques that she's learned against the cage aren't going to work?
No, I think it's going to help her.
Or do you think it'll help her because she has been working against a surface other than just a flat mat?
Here goes why I think it will help her. The way that I see like the match going, like in my head, is like Mackenzie being on the feet, being more forward, right? And in the pit or whatever we're calling this, the karate combat.
Right, I think they call it like the alley. Yeah.
In the alley, with the 45-degree angle on the wall, it's more of a penalty to catch the wall, right? Like if it's a vertical cage,
you're still up.
It helps you stay up, right? It also helps you stop them from moving back, so it can help you with your takedowns as well.
Right.
But this, like you're going down easier, I
heard Craig Jones talking about that, and I was like, it makes a lot of sense because if you back up to a wall, like if I'm stuffing a double leg, to me, and maybe it's just because I've like worked with MMA guys and stuff a bunch, I'm like, if I have a wall behind me, I'm good. If I don't have a wall behind me, I'm like really screwed.
Well, here's
and then the 45 degree, I'm already going down.
That's the thing, though. You know what would? So I'm going to give you 2 scenarios. All right, there's a wall behind you. You're like, all right, cool. I can utilize this wall to an advantage, right? Or 2, there's a football field behind you. You're like, all right, I'll just back up.
Yeah, I'll just
indefinitely.
run. Yeah.
Like I keep you at my range indefinitely, right? So the angled wall completely screws the defensive person, which is what we want.
Exactly.
Which is what they want. They want the offensive person to be rewarded.
Oh, I want it too, dude. I'm almost full karate combat now. I'm like, yo, put MMA in the pit now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very interested in it. But like, I don't know. It's cool. I like it. All right, so yeah, I mean, I favor Fionn in this match. Just more current with this current environment of grappling. A great match. I'm sure a bunch of people like predicted it. I've saw like some like clips on Instagram reels of like other podcasts being like, we called it, but I can get confirmation from one Vincent Meng that I was like, they should get Mackenzie Dern for this match. Because we were up at James's fight, and we were talking about who they're going to get for Fionn and stuff. And I was like, dude, the big move would be Mackenzie Dern. That's who they need to get. And then like 4 days later, they were like, Mackenzie Dern. And I was like,
that's a genius move. It's just like, she's got the skills, she's got the fans, you know what I mean? And more importantly, she has the crossover fans. She's got the MMA fans.
And that's what they're looking for. They want those crossover fans, and she has the accreditations of the jiu-jitsu community as well. So there's that. All right, so now let's get into the under 80 kilo. I don't know, like this weight class is all, like everybody has like weight classes that they lean towards. This one is my favorite weight class, and it makes it sense too that the ADCC weight class that is my favorite is the one closest to this, the 77 kilo. Right? All right, so let's get into it in the order in which they were announced. And then I'm going to stop us at a certain point. We've got Andrew Tackett, Nicky Ryan, Joseph Chen, who just put on a show last night on Who's Number One, beating the East Coast Trials champion Elijah Dorsey. Just inside trip for the takedown. He's got this like tripod passing system that he just made look so good. And then from the mount took the back and finished from the back. It was like I'm starting to question my picks for this because of him. Lucas Barbosa, who was the 88
That's Hulk, right?
Hulk.
Okay.
He was the 88. So in 2019, he took bronze at 99 kilo, which is 218 pounds.
Yeah.
And then in 2022, he took silver at 88 kilo, which is 194.
Yeah.
And now he's in the 80 kilo bracket, which is like 176.
You think
He does fight MMA at 170.
Think he's getting a little less juicy because
Yeah,
of MMA,
because of
perhaps?
MMA. Because of MMA, have to come off the juice because you get tested.
Now, is he looking to make his way to the UFC, or is he in other organizations?
I'm not very up to date on his MMA career, but I'm sure the goal is the UFC.
Okay, yeah, he's got to get it all out the system then.
Yeah. Then we've got Renato Canuto. Forman was gonna fight him in December, but it didn't
that's
pan
right.
out.
Yeah.
But he's a black belt world champion in the gi, without the gi, also, and he at least competed. He might. I don't think he medaled at ADCC, but he competed for a medal at ADCC. I think against Gary for the bronze 1 year, if I'm not mistaken. And then we've got Matthias Denise, who is a 2-time ADCC champion at the 88 kilo. No, he must not be. He must just be a one-timer. 2019. Yeah, he was the 2019 ADCC champion. Because Gordon was the 2017, so it couldn't have been him. Yeah, so, he was an ADCC champion. Egan O'Flanagan, who I didn't hear of until the last ADCC. He made the semis against Giancarlo Bodoni. Very good. Levi Jones Leary, who is predominantly a gi player, recently kind of jumping. A lot of people are jumping into no gi now. He's like a New Zealand Australian guy. Trains with Lachlan Giles. He won that trials. Looked phenomenal doing it. He just had a match against the next guy. I'm gonna say Tommy Langaker. No, he didn't. He did not have a match against him recently. I'm misconstruing him with somebody else. But these brackets are crazy. Like Jason.
Let me ask you about this real quick. Why does the New Zealand Australia region? Why do they produce what feels to me like a disproportionate amount of fighters and jiu-jitsu guys when they're a relatively small place? Do you think it's a cultural thing?
Why does Pennsylvania produce a ridiculous amount of good wrestlers when we're right next, when a disproportionate amount of?
Yeah, I would imagine it's because it's a cultural thing, and we have that knowledge, and we have those camps in place. Do they have a similar thing there? Do you know?
So I don't know, but I would imagine it's the same thing. So my opinion on PA wrestling and why it is why we are 2 levels above. Even our neighboring states who are very good of Ohio and New Jersey, but we're so significantly in results ahead of other states. And I believe it's because, we have a lot of Division I college programs in this state.
Oh, interesting.
Right. So it's okay. And we've lost a couple, over the course of time, but we got Pitt, we had Duquesne, which we lost they were still around for the rationale that I'm going to give you, right? We had Pitt, Duquesne, Slippery Rock, Edinburgh, Clarion, Bloomsburg, Lock Haven, Penn State, Drexel, Penn, Lehigh. So now I'm on 11. Bucknell. These are all D1.
Right.
And so there's 12 D1, and I know I'm missing some of those PSAC schools.
Right, yeah.
Shippensburg, I think they're D2, but they may have been D1 before. You know what I mean?
Right,
I'm missing,
exactly.
There's somebody that I'm missing, and I just named 12.
Right.
All right? So all those colleges, right? D1 colleges, now you got a litany of D1 wrestlers coming out of PA. They get jobs, teaching at this high school. Next thing you know, They're coaching high school teams. They're coaching middle school teams. They're coaching elementary teams.
Right. They're opening camps.
Most places where you're growing up, your elementary school coach is someone's dad.
It's like me.
Yeah. Your middle school coach is the gym teacher.
Right.
Right. That gym teacher wrestled for 2 years in high school.
Right.
Your high school coach actually wrestled in high school, but not in college.
Right.
But like wrestled, like, came up through. Right. In PA, you're 5 years old. Your coach is a D1 wrestler.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just so like the rich get richer in that sense. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's something along those lines.
Right.
Over there. But yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So then we got the addition of Jason Nolf, who is 1-0 in submission grappling. He just made his debut on June 9th, coming over from wrestling. He's going to be an exciting addition.
I am really excited for this.
And then Andy Varela, who's an ADCC vet, would have been an ADCC this year as well. He's a Las Vegas guy. He's got a dynamic style of like wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and stuff. He's very good. But yeah, so those are the 11 that were announced there. And then we had earth-shattering news this week.
What's that?
The addition of not one, but 2 Rotolos to the Craig Jones Invitational. So you're talking Cade, the defending 77-kilo champ, over. And then Ty, who took 3rd bronze in the open weight, in the absolute, while weighing like 183 pounds.
And are they both in the lighter division?
They're both in the lighter division.
Oh, dude, this is so exciting.
So that leaves only 3 spots left for the lighter division and 5 spots left for the heavier division.
Wow.
So a prominent player in 77 kilo, the weight class that like
transfers
is Mika Galvao. All
Okay.
right. So Mika Galvao, he lost in the ADCC finals to Cade Rotolo on the last ADCC.
Is Cade the one who's the one champ?
They're both one champs. They're both one champs.
just
Cade's the
different
one
weight
who just had his MMA fight.
That's right. Okay.
Cade's also the ADCC champ. Cade has better accomplishments as of late. But I always thought Ty was better, like coming up. And some of the reasons why I thought that is they're the same size.
Right.
But Ty would always
Bump up.
go do the heavier division so that they could split. And they had a really good match at Brown. They compete against each other, right?
Yeah,
if they get matched up in a tournament, and dude, normally when teammates compete against each other, a lot of times in the IBJJF they close out where like if it's me and you, you'll be like, all right, Mike, you got it. Like I'm like the senior, right? So you'd be like, okay, like I forfeit, which is like lame.
Yeah.
So then some teammates will compete, but like, like I'm not trying to like hurt you. Like I'm trying to make sure I win, but like,
yeah,
dude, they're
ripping at your hooks.
Complete assholes to each other. Dude, it's crazy. It's the most violent jiu-jitsu. Like they might as well just let them hit each other. One of them got stitches. This was a gi match, right? And it's the finals, meaning that after this it's done.
Right, yeah.
One of them got stitches. Dude, they were just ignorant. And I heard that when they train, it's like stupid.
Deathmatch.
Like, yeah, they're like punching each other and stuff.
They're like 20, aren't they, or something like
dude,
that?
yeah, they might be like 21. They're so cool. Like I just like, so there's a lot of like behind the scenes footage of them, and like something that I saw like years ago was like they got in an argument in their like hotel room in like Costa Rica or whatever and just started fist fighting. I was just like, geez Louise, dude. And it was like hard tile floor, and they're just scrapping. I'm like, man, dude, these dudes are
You're
crazy.
like, yo, these dudes are just like me.
Bro, they're wild. That's
awesome.
They're awesome. I'm a huge fan of them. And like when they compete too, like they compete so
aggressively.
Yeah, like and it's like
violent. And dynamically. Yeah, and violent.
Dynamically and violent. It's like, yeah, they're out there like trying to kill you.
Oh, I love it.
But yet it's like I want to try to explain this right? Like, so like they're out there trying to kill you with aggression and technique, right? Like, they're not out there like there are some people who I am not a fan of, and like they're known for being aggressive and violent and stuff, but they're like they slap,
right?
Like, and they're like, oh, it's just a collar tie, it's a hard collar tie, get tie. I'm like, no, dude, you're fucking slapping.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, that's like you're like doing bullying tactics.
Right. It's not the sport anymore.
It's not the sport. Yeah, you're taking it outside the sport to then try to give you an advantage in the sport.
Right. It's It's a lack of technique trying to be made up for with aggression.
Yeah.
So
and it especially pisses me off when I know for a fact that these dudes who are doing this have phenomenal technique. And like, you know,
and
what I
choosing
mean?
not to.
But like, it's like their thing now. It's like I slap people.
So the
in
Rotolos,
jiu-jitsu.
they're kind of like if you mix like CJI's skills with like Decker's aggression.
Yeah, they could be, but if you want people to understand what we're talking about, maybe
That's a good point. I should have made.
You're using like the more so you could explain that using the Rotolos. People know the Rotolos more than they know CJI and Decker.
Fair enough. I was watching a lot of Muay Thai last night.
Yeah,
so.
dude, like it's like okay, yeah, let me make this harder.
Okay, it'd be like if you mixed the skills of Demetrius Johnson with the aggression of I was about to say Melvin Manhoef, and then I was like, that's too old. Gaethje.
Yes. Yeah. Wow, that's a good one. They're also training with Demetrius Johnson as well.
Oh, the Rotola?
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah. I don't know like how.
Right.
Like,
yeah. How much?
But there was clips of them.
All right. Hold on. We got to talk about Nolf. I'm so interested.
Yeah. Run me.
A
your
lot
questions.
of these guys.
I hit everything I wanted to hit.
Are like kind of, I don't want to say wrestling based, but like they don't. When I think of jiu-jitsu, right? Like me practicing jiu-jitsu over the past on and off however many years, right? I always think like, okay, like I gain an advantage by being aggressive and, you know, like a little bit more wrestling style relative to the guys who are going to pull guard and play off their back and whatever, right? But when I think about a lot of those guys that you just discussed, especially like the Rotolos, they're aggressive. They're not like passive on the feet. You know what I mean? They're not just like kind of passively sitting to their butt. You know what I mean? Like how
okay, let me give you
Nolf
something.
going to shut
Let me
those
tell you
dudes
something.
down?
So on this list of 13 people who have been announced for that weight class, I could only possibly see 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out of 13 people who I think would even be willing to sit to a guard. Even though sitting to a guard might be the right choice.
Right.
Only for the others, for the other 12 against Nolf, right? Like sitting the guard's going to be the right choice.
Right,
or like
for sure.
playing a guard. I only see 4 people who I could even see stomaching it to actually do it.
So, dude, this is going to be so exciting. So,
It's
like,
going to be so exciting.
okay, first of all, does Nolf just shut down all of their stand-up wrestling like easy?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then does he have a chance to get some big wins here? And does he have a chance to win the whole thing?
I need to know more about the rule set. I need to know more specifics about the rule set. So from what I know is it's a 3-round fight, right?
Right, yeah.
And it's scored like 10-9 must system. So like, for example, if I won the round, I beat you 10-9, which then they're like, oh, if you win by a certain amount, like so they're using like what they're trying to do from what I gathered off of Craig's Rogan appearance is they're trying to mix jiu-jitsu rules with MMA rules in hopes that helps like be a blend for everybody. I think that the rule set, from what I just like don't have a good feeling about the rule set.
I was really against it at first. I'm not necessarily for it right now, but I'm getting closer to it.
So I'm pretty against it, but like I'm not against it. Like I'm against it. I don't like the rule set.
Okay.
But we can get into that. But so what my understanding is like, all right, so it's basically like we're having 3 5-minute matches back to back to back, like 3 rounds. All right. Now here goes the thing. The scoring is jiu-jitsu scoring. So I'm assuming it's like 2 points takedown, 3 points guard pass, 2 points sweep, 4 points mount, 4 points back. At some point of point disparity in there, it becomes a 10-8 round. And I want to know what that is.
Got you. Like where does like the tech kind of come in? Or
or
something
something like
I
that.
guess is kind
yes,
of
would be a great way to look at it. Now, what the 10-point must system does allow you to do is if it is a 0-0 round, which is likely, it's hard to score, you know, somebody they'll be like, all right, it was 0-0, but like 10-9 you. Like, you know what I mean? You were like, whoever would have got the referee's decision would get a 10-9 for that round. So
it's
what
open,
I don't...
Right?
Huh?
Open
and it's
scoring?
open scoring. You know. Yeah. So what I don't like about it is like, for example, you can beat me like 0-0 ref's decision in round 1, right? And then you can beat me 0-0 ref's decision in round 2. and then I beat you like 42-0
Right.
in round 3. Like, is that a 10-8? You know what I mean?
And even if
And
it
now
is,
we have
now
a
we
draw. And now we have a draw, right? So like, but like, you know what I mean? What if I beat you like in round 3? Like, what if I beat you like, I don't know, like 5-0? But that's not enough for a 10-8.
Now,
So you win the match, even though I scored 5 points and you scored 0 points
Right.
in 15 minutes. So we had that in wrestling for a little bit. We call it the Dark Ages. All right. So from a period of time, I know at least 05 to 2012. All right. It was a 3 2-minute period thing, and the periods were scored like you won the period.
right, it was
Right?
rounds.
So I could beat you 5-0, win the first period. You beat me 1-0, 1-0. The end of the match. Oh, it's 5-2. Nope. It's not 5-2. It's 2-1.
Right.
Right. So that was stupid.
Yeah.
Right. And we're gonna kind of see that here. You know. But like, you know, I mean, it might work out. I doubt it. I think we're gonna. I mean, like the fact that there's only gonna be 30 matches.
Right.
Right. Because well, you know, there's 16 Oh, and there might be 32 matches because I'm sure they'll do a third place match.
Oh yeah.
They might do a third place match. So there'll be 16 matches per weight class, and then however many super fights they do.
Right.
So like, you know, I guess there's a chance like at that small sample size that we don't run into one of those problems. But if you let that continue, you're going to see those happen over and over again. And what we loved in wrestling was when freestyle changed back to cumulative scoring. You know, like
that makes sense. So okay, then I guess. Do you think it's possible that Nolf could either A, get some big wins, or B, potentially win the whole thing if
so that's the thing. The
he's
scoring.
able to just like take dudes down and
That's
just like avoid...
that's what I want to know. I want to know understand the scoring. And yeah, I think the fact that if like number one thing I want to know is how can you get to guard without giving up points? Right? Like can you just sit?
Right.
Right? Like in ADCC you can just sit as long as it's in the no points period.
Right.
Right? But if you sit in the points period, it's a negative, so you're going to lose, right? In the IBJJF, you have to be making contact with them to sit. You can't just like go and like run back here and sit down, right? Yeah. Like so, like you got to like pull a guard, so like I have to be touching you to sit to a guard.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So like I want to know those things because that's a huge impact on how this handles Nolfs. So regardless of that, what works in his favor is they are 3 5-minute matches, right? So that means at the 5-minute mark, however far along you got, you have to stop and restart on the feet.
You could have been on his back for a minute. You're working for that.
Well, if you're on his back, you likely scored. I'm more thinking about him needing to stay out of like leg entanglements and stuff and stay offensive on the pass. Nolf's got a gas tank.
Yeah,
he's got a crazy gas tank, so he can stay like you know active to not get hit with stalling and potentially. Like, you know, working towards his pass in an efficient manner, you know, to where you can't get offense on. So he can, like, stay on the offense. So if he can get that takedown, right, like if the guard pulling rules are difficult or if it's like you're not allowed to pull guard or whatever, he's likely going to get that takedown. You get those 2 points. He's only got to survive. And he can. So I
also,
think...
what if he lets you back up?
Well, you can't let somebody back up. That person would have to.
Well, I guess they probably wouldn't even want to either.
Yeah, I mean, like that would be a strategic error on the other person. Like once you're taken down, stay down,
exactly.
scoot in, like you know what I mean. So it's not like get up, like we saw that in a Fury grappling, the one that like Aljo was on and stuff. It's like stand him up for what? No. In jiu-jitsu, it's actually the opposite. There's
get down.
There's a get down. It's a get down. Like nothing happens on the feet, right? The feet is just, you know, the being on the feet is just a struggle to see who gets top position, assuming both people want top position. Right. Like it's just like the prerequisite towards that. So anyhow.
All right.
I think the rule set dictates on how big of a player Nolf is in this.
Gotcha. All right,
and I think the 3 5-minute rounds definitely play in his favor, and I need to see like what the guard pulling system is, and I need to see like effectively what the actual like way to score the 10-9s are.
Right. That makes sense. All right. So are any of the guys you listed, are any of them new wave guys?
No.
Do you think that would ever be allowed by Danaher? Do you think he would be like, oh yeah, you can go to CJI? Or do you think he'd be like, nah, we're doing ADCC?
I don't know enough
Okay.
to make a judgment on that.
Fair enough. One more question kind of about this. What do you think? I mean, I kind of know what like Gordon thinks about Craig and CJI and everything. Or at least I have some guesses about it. But what do you think John thinks of Craig and of CJI?
I don't know. I don't really have an opinion on it. I probably, I don't know.
Because like I think that on a personal level, he'd want to support his guys and the organization that makes his guys, so great.
Dude, my thing is like, dude, it's $1 million tournament.
And that's the thing is I think John is like smart enough to realize like this could be good long term and like
I think it's really good for maybe like his like the junior members because like dude they could go potentially win $1 million. Like
Right.
you know who should jump in this is Big Dan. Dan Montessori because like here's the thing like if he's in the plus 99 kilo division, I guess Gordon's probably just doing the super fight. But like, do you know in ADCC, if you're a teammate, you have to go against each other in round 1 or 2?
no.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So in
You might have explained
ADCC,
this to me one time.
in the ADCC, you cannot go against a teammate in the semifinals or the finals, which means only one person per team can possibly medal.
Right.
Only one person per team can possibly medal. So, for example, let's use we can use. I mean, there were so many examples in the last ADCC, but let's use Autos for example, Andre Galbao's team. So in the 88 kilo weight division, right? They had 3 athletes in it. They had Lucas Hulk Barbosa, they had Josh Hinger, and they had Ty Rotolo. So in the first match, in the very first match, it was Josh Hinger versus Ty Rotolo.
Right.
Right, and they're teammates. Not only are they teammates, Josh Hinger was Ty Rotolo's kids coach.
Right.
Yeah. So they were the first match, and the winner had to go against the other Atos guy. So since there was 3 of them, they had to be in the same quad. Right. Because you need to be down to 1 by the time it comes to the semis. So Big Dan was in the last ADCC at plus 99, and so was Gordon. Right. So Big Dan lost his opening round match, but had he won, he would have had Gordon in the quarters.
Interesting.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So they need to eliminate themselves.
Right.
Right there. So like, let's say like, if we have 4, then we're going against each other.
Yeah.
The first, like, that's it. It's a mini tournament between us to see who makes the semifinals. We're all like, if it's me, you, Vince, and Logan, right, and we all make the ADCC, right? Well, guess what? First round is me versus you, Vince versus Logan, and then winners against each other. Yeah. It's like, man, we could just do this in the gym. You know?
Does Atos, do they have the most competitors in ADCC?
I think they did last time.
That would make sense. Where is Atos? Is it in California? Okay. For whatever, I thought it was in Brazil still.
No.
All right. So, okay, that's interesting. And then, do you know any other details about Craig and Mo's personal beef?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't know any other details on that.
That's juicy to me. We talked about Dern. We talked about Craig and Gabby. All right. Do you think that CJI will happen again, be successful, and change the sport meaningfully?
I think it will happen again. I think it will change the sport. I mean, I do.
Yeah.
I think a part of me thinks that they got to change the name.
Yes and
the
no.
Craig Jones Invitational. Like, I don't know. I just feel like having it being named after a person is
that's like part of what makes it like funny and kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, but okay, at some point, like if you're trying to take the prestige, right? You're trying to usurp the prestige from, because like that's the thing about ADCC. It's like, oh, it's the prestige.
Right.
It's like they don't get paid shit. Like, look at this, dude. If you win, you have to win the absolute, the open weight in order to get into the super fight.
Right.
Right. So it takes you at least 2 years to get to the super fight because you have to win the absolute in 1 ADCC. Then you get to the super fight, right? If you win that super fight, you get 40 grand.
Yeah.
All right. So in order to get to $1 million.
Yeah.
In order to get to $1 million, dude, you have to win that 25 times. That means that from your first ADCC match to your last super fight, 50 years has passed. 50 years.
Or you could just go win one
right?
CJI.
Because it takes 25 super fights to equal that. That's 50 freaking years.
And I think that's my point.
And you have to have won the absolute 2 years prior to that.
I think that's my point, though, is like ADCC has this name. It's not a goofy name. It's not tied to any, one person, really, kind of. But CJI dude, if there's $1 million, who cares what it's called? You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah, I mean I get that, but like if you want to take like I don't know.
Okay, well we're getting in the weeds here.
And the other thing, I think it's so hard. Like I've heard, like I've done it. I think you've done it. I've heard a bunch of people accidentally go CGI instead of CJI.
Yeah.
Like I hear it all. CGI. Oh, the CGI.
It's just so much easier to say.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this then. So let's say this does blow up and it becomes super successful, and
He also wants to do it every year instead of every other year.
Right. So
which is sick.
Yeah,
I think there should be a world championship every year. Every year. Yeah.
So this starts happening, right? More ADCC guys start flowing over, and now all of a sudden, Craig Jones becomes more popular than ADCC, and this is the real title, right?
Listen, if there's $1 million tournament that happens every year, it will be the real title.
Yes.
That's all there is to it.
Okay, so let's say in this future that this happens, right?
The thing is, we can't know that. It has to happen consistently.
Exactly.
Right? And it has to be like, oh, this isn't going away. And in order for that to happen consistently and not go away, like right now, like, are they going to profit? Are they going to make a profit?
That's why I asked, do you think it's going to be successful? Right?
Because it needs to be sustainable to be successful.
Now, let's assume that it is, because I also do believe that it's enough of a... Again, it's piqued my interest enough that, like, you know, I'll watch on YouTube. You know what I mean? I'll be one of their viewers, right? And let's assume that it is successful and everything keeps flowing this direction. It becomes the title, and ADCC is a secondary thing now, right?
Right.
In this potential future, do you ever see Gordon switching over, or will his pride not let that happen?
I don't see him ever switching over. I think he's almost done anyhow. So
okay, and that leads me right to my next question. Is, do you see Gordon having like a fast drop off at the end of his career like Anderson or like Chuck Liddell had? I know I just made MMA references, but whatever. Or his style too, like slow and methodical.
I think his style's too slow and methodical. I think he's just too good. I don't see him losing like anytime soon. I just think that his health is ultimately going to be what retires him.
Interesting.
So I think that actually will prevent that decline from happening. So at some point in time, I do believe that there would be like, and not like a technical decline, but definitely like a slight athletic decline, which the thing about that is he's not very athletic, so it doesn't really matter.
And especially like he's strong, obviously, but we were talking last time about like some like the 400-pound strongmen and people like that getting into it. Like eventually you get a guy like that who, you know, fast tracks his technique.
And also Gordon there's going to be another Gordon.
Exactly.
Right, like this generation, next generation stuff. So like
it's almost a blessing in disguise, because then he can kind of like unintentionally pull an Andre Ward, you know what I mean, and just go out on top.
I mean it is. Like you could look at it like that, but I think there's honor in losing at the end. Like, you know what I mean? Like staying in it until it's gone.
Right.
Like, type of thing. There's like
knowing you squeezed everything out of it.
Especially like in jiu-jitsu, I would say more so than like a striking art, because you're not taking the head trauma, which is like, you know, a serious thing. But like, you know what I mean? It's like honor and having the torch be passed.
Right. Galval losing to Gordon.
Yeah, and then like and so forth. There's like a little bit of
that's interesting. I never thought of it that way before, because I have always like really idolized guys like Andre Ward. I really love what he did. To a degree, I kind of really respect what Khabib did. I do kind of wish we got one or two more out of him, but whatever. Like, I kind of like when guys go out on top, and I'm like, wow, you went in, you made your
those
money.
Dudes, like, it's again, like they're getting hit, so like,
right,
like, you know what I mean.
And
like,
being the striking coach, that's how I think of things. But like, I never thought of it that way. I'm like, oh, that actually is kind of nice. It's like staying as long as you can, and then pass the torch.
Yeah, and you get the benefit of squeezing everything out of it. Also, like, you know, like you're a legend, right? Like, but like the torch is like efficiently passed, you know.
And it doesn't seem to be as like, I don't know what the word is, like, not that there's like a. It seems to me kind of like what you said, like more like honorable.
It's like an honor.
Have you ever looked down on like Galval and been like, "You're not that good. You lost the Gordon." You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely not.
Exactly. You know. Whereas like at the end of like, not that I would say this. Obviously, Anderson Silva's my favorite UFC fighter, but like people be like, "Oh, he's not that good. End of his career, he's getting knocked out and everything." I'm like, no, you don't get.
Well, here goes the other thing to that. Like okay, so like, there's an argument, you know, to be made about Jordan Burroughs versus Kyle Dake. Like, who's better? Well, Kyle Dake won the last two, right? But Jordan, they had 10 matches. Jordan is 7-3 against Kyle Dake, but Kyle won the last two, right? Maybe this is a bad one because I don't necessarily believe this for this case 100%. But like, if you were like, oh well, like okay, Izzy beat Anderson head to head, does that mean Anderson's not the GOAT?
Right.
No, he can still be the greatest of all time. It's just like you beat him at a different time in his career versus this time, right? Like
it's the Canelo Floyd thing.
Yeah.
It's the
And like, would anybody argue that Izzy was a better middleweight champion than Anderson?
You could make arguments, but
How?
I see what you're saying.
Tell me the argument you could make there.
The argument you can make there is that
he defended it and didn't lose it. Oh, that's right. He lost.
No.
He lost it twice. His long streak was how long was his streak? Was it like
who Izzy's?
Yeah. Not really close to Anderson's the slightest.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, cool. Here's the argument. The argument is, and I don't like this argument.
That Izzy beat him head to head.
No. The argument is, well, yeah, people will use that, but again, like,
yeah, but not, you know, we're above that, so we understand.
The argument is the era changes, right, and the strength of competition, which I don't like, but
yeah. So who had a better strength of competition? Do you think?
It's man.
Do you think it was Anderson going up and beating light heavyweight champions?
Dude, yeah, and also okay. So I spoke one time with someone that you and I both know very well about like how Anderson Silva is like super great and everything, and this person I think was trying to make the argument that GSP was at that time. This was kind of before Jones was like really taking off, possibly better. And I was like, yeah, but you know, he beat like X, Y, and Z. And one of the examples I gave was Henderson. And I was like, Henderson is like an all-time great. And
yeah, he's the number one. He's the number one.
And he was like, oh yeah, but I knew ahead of time Henderson wasn't going to win. He wasn't like training that hard for it or whatever. And I was like, yeah, but like, that's not a good argument against his like strength of schedule. You know what I mean?
You can't use insider information.
The only argument
that's
that I would
or trading.
The only argument I would entertain that Izzy might be a better champ, and I think I even said this on the last pod, which whatever, is the era changes, right? And it's more difficult in my mind to have a long streak in the modern era than it was in the past.
Yeah.
And again, I hate to even like mention an argument against
Why
Anderson.
is it more difficult in the modern era?
I think because there's just a deeper pool of guys who are like exceptionally good. You know what I mean?
Because there's just more.
Yeah, and I think that the drug testing has made it so that everyone's a little bit more even, and that they either have to be using the same amounts of like smaller substances.
So do you think that's like a normal thing for sport? Like, do you think that holds true in most every sport? Like,
no, and I want to do a whole pod about this. Remember we talked about the Dan Carlin boxing podcast?
Oh yeah. Okay, so I was gonna compare it to wrestling.
Okay, specifically MMA and jiu-jitsu I think are a little different from the vast majority of sports, and that they.
What about wrestling? I feel like it's the same.
I think it's a little bit different. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it maybe that does get lumped in with this. But relative to like boxing, even outside of combat sports, relative to like ball sports and whatever, which again, I'm not an expert, so I'm kind of speaking out of turn here, but I think that jiu-jitsu and MMA are evolving at a faster rate currently, and especially over the last like 10 years.
Yeah, but like I'm talking about over time.
Yeah,
right?
I think if you go back 10 years, that rate of progression was even higher.
So here goes the argument that I would make. It's like, okay, the pool has gotten deeper for MMA, obviously, right? The pool's gotten deeper for wrestling.
Yeah, we can lump that in. I was just saying, I'm comparing Anderson's time to Izzy's time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm gonna compare this too.
Okay, got you.
Okay, the pool has gotten deeper for wrestling, and you're like, it's when the pool's deeper, it's harder to streak it out,
right?
Like right? But in wrestling, we have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've had 7 4-time NCAA champs. 7. That's it. Only 7 people have won 4 NCAA champs.
I have a great follow-up then.
All right. So if streaking would have been easier before the pool got deeper, then why are
we seeing more of those streaks?
Why did 5 of those 7 happen in the last 11 years?
So okay,
but yet in the first 80 years, only 2. Only 2 in the first 80 and 5 in the last 11.
Okay, I got a couple.
Have been able to be 4-timers.
One, do you think that we are seeing the same rate of evolution in wrestling that we see in like jiu-jitsu, for example? Like jiu-jitsu, 20 years ago is totally different than jiu-jitsu now, right?
So not as much, but yes.
But
actually,
higher than like another
we're
sport,
seeing, like, I would say in the last 20 years of wrestling, we have seen the most intense spike.
right? Okay. Then let me ask you this. Is my original premise wrong? Is it easier, or has perhaps the level in MMA, did it like evolve really, really heavily from like 2000 to like, I don't know, 2015, and we're starting to see a leveling out?
Yeah.
Interesting. So technically streaks might, or let me, okay, this is a great question then. Is a streak easier when the playing field's leveled out and you can just kind of coast above it? Or is it easier during that evolutionary period? Because if you're higher on that learning curve, think like Gordon and Gary getting into leg locks.
It's easier during the evolutionary period because during that evolutionary period, if you were able to jump to the top, you have a significant gap, right, between your average, like, you know, you're having more significant gaps. Whenever that evolutionary period has ended and you're just riding just barely above the line, you're barely above it.
Right.
Right? So you're in the margins.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know what I mean?
We're getting close to an asymptote.
Where every single one of your fight, like, let's say, like, for example, since you're only 2 points better, you're the best in the world, but you're only 2 points, like 2 out of 100 points better than everybody else. Right? Like, the odds of you losing to somebody, because you're fighting better people the entire time.
So my original premise was wrong, but
it holds true.
But it's still right overall that Anderson had an easier time than Izzy did.
Yeah, because the evolution of the sport. Yeah, I could see that, but, like, you know, I mean, we see the same dramatic evolution of the sport in wrestling, and we have the most consistent champions.
Yeah.
That we've ever had.
That would make sense.
You know what I mean? Like, Kyle Dake. So 2013 to 2024, we've had 5 people win their fourth.
So nuts.
Not only have we had 5 people win their fourth, there's only been one person going for their fourth not to get it, and it was Spencer Lee. Which,
oh yeah, didn't he get pinned?
Yeah. But listen to this. So, Pat Smith did it in 94 or 5, and he was the first one to do it.
Is he the older brother?
He's the younger brother. He's out of the 4 Smith brothers that are, like, I think there might even be more brothers. There was, like, a bunch of little kids, but out of the 4, it went Leroy was the oldest, who wrestled in the 1984 Olympic trials, and ended up, they had to go to court and everything over it. And then John, then Pat, and then they had another younger brother, Mark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But, you know, you got Pat Smith in 94 and 95, right? And then you got Kale in 02.
Wait, he went for 4 and didn't get it?
No, he got it. These are all people who did it.
Oh, I thought you were saying,
only one person didn't, and it's Spencer Lee.
Got you.
Right? Only one, like, so, like, in order to win 4, you had to have won as a freshman, sophomore, and junior. Right? So you've won your first 3 years. There's only been 8 people to do that. So that means only one person didn't win it their senior year after winning it the first 3. Right? So you got Kale, who did it in 2002, and then Kyle Dake was 2013, and then Logan Stieber was 2015. All right? Then in 2023, you had Yanni Diakomahalis going for it at the same time as Spencer Lee. There could have been 2 in 1 year.
Wow.
In 2023. And now here we go, 1 year later, 2024, there was 2. Carter Starachi and Aaron Brooks. So, like, you know what I mean?
Wild. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. It's like, dude, like, we've had 3. It took over 80 years. Wait, so, like, it took until 2013 to get to 3. But yet we had 3 in the last 2 years.
All right, hold on. This is kind of unrelated.
From the beginning of time till 2013 to get to 3 4-time champs. But we had 3 in the last 2 years.
Okay, stop me if this is just like a different pod subject and we're about to get too far into the weeds on this.
We're already too far in the weeds. We need to move on.
Okay, then let me just say this so we don't forget. Dude, I think what's important in a sport, like being at a high rate of evolution, is probably directly related to its complexity, right? And if you think about, like, grappling sports, wrestling, that's why in the beginning I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe wrestling's lumped in here. But I just thought maybe it was too old that it had kind of been figured out, but whatever. Grappling is so complex, right? Like in striking, when was the last time a new move was invented?
I don't know.
Yeah.
The calf kick.
Bro, okay.
So, like, when is the last time anything was invented? It's just when did it get popular again? right?
No, I think that there's stuff.
You're telling me
in jiu-jitsu, dude. You're telling me
there's like
in
statues
early
of people doing
pancreation,
heel hooks.
but in early pancreation, dudes were hitting buggy chokes.
Okay, maybe not, but I mean, whatever. Okay,
I think that in grappling,
Probably.
because it's complexity, there's techniques that haven't even techniques and tactics and strategies that have not ever been tapped into.
what
Whereas
we
in
believe is
striking,
techniques. There's lost techniques being refound.
That's also probably
Keenan Cornelius has a segment called Lost Tech,
okay.
in where he'll
Okay,
be like,
we should stop because this is a whole thing. I actually just spoke with Warren about what one of the murals should be at like a gym, and was talking about the the Kimura picture or statue from like ancient Greece.
yeah.
Like we should get off the subject.
All right,
because
let's.
we can
You
do a
know
whole
what?
other
Let's
pod
stay on.
this.
You know what we should stay on the subject of is dominance. And I
Hold
don't
on,
want to.
wait. I think I have one more question about CJI.
It's ran its course.
Okay, let me. All right, no, this one's fast though because you might not have an answer. Who is the MMA equivalent of Craig? Who's like a troll, a promoter, a great competitor, but not a
Chael.
champ? Dude, that was the first person that I thought of.
It's a direct comparison.
Okay.
Dude, think about Chael. Like, what's one of Chael's things? It's like always second place.
Yeah.
What's Craig Jones' like whole thing?
Second place?
B
Great
team.
talker.
He named his team
Yup.
B team.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, great. Yeah, Chael.
Okay.
And
Love
they're
it.
like they're both funny, but they're both like like if you were with them, that like you would like to be around them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like they're funny and they pick on people and stuff, but like like
It's all in good fun.
yeah, they just
Yeah.
feel like, and like I don't know either of them personally, although I do have a little bit more of an understanding of Chael as a person, just from being in the wrestling community. And dude, I know that Chael's awesome.
Yeah.
Just absolutely
Both of them
awesome.
seem like,
And I'm sure Craig, I feel like Craig is too.
if you were like, hey, dude, you have to go just have like a fun night out. Do you want to hang out with Chael and Craig, or do you want to go hang out with Gordon and John?
Yeah. All right. Okay. So
Speaking of winners,
speaking of dominance. All right. We're gonna jump into some stout PGH talk, and we got to do a tip of a cap to a certain James Padmore. He won his title fight last weekend in Philadelphia. Myself and Vince went out to corner the young man, and dude, he's such a joy to corner.
dude.
You know, he's a joy. Like he just does what you ask.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, and he just listens, and it's, dude. As soon as he gets his fights to the ground, I'm just like, oh, this is so sick. I'm like right uppercut under the armpit,
Yep.
left cross wrist, and I swear he just does whatever I ask him to do, or he tries.
Right,
Like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
doesn't
He makes
always
an
like
attempt.
work. Yeah, yeah. But he's like trying,
Uh-huh.
you know, and success has been there from it.
And you know what else is cool? He listened to the things I told him leading up to the fight. Did you see when he came out, right? And he's southpaw
Yeah, hand
with that
fighting.
long guard, right? And you can hear the announcer. He's like,
Oh, there's
that's
some
so
things
hard
that
to do.
you don't know then about this. You don't know some things that you're going to be very happy about.
Oh, sick! Because I heard the announcer, which by the way, the announcer was saying some very nice things about you. Have you watched it back with?
No.
Oh, dude.
What'd he say?
He was like, yeah, that's Mike Wilkins in his corner. He's like, dude, you don't even know. Mike Wilkins is a friend of mine. Now I'm forgetting like who that he was and like what the
It
story
was Justin
was.
Haskell.
Okay, I guess
He's Philly.
did you put in a good word with him to someone else?
Yeah. Did he talk about
He
what it
did.
was?
I
He didn't. He just said,
I don't know how.
I don't
now
know.
can't
I'm not
remember.
going to talk about it
Let's
on
just
here.
say he was very complimentary of you.
Listen, I'll tell you off camera. I'm not saying that, but if he said it on camera, he's wild.
Okay.
He's wild, but I'll tell you
let's chill
off
on that.
camera.
Let's chill on
No,
that.
dude, so he's one of Daniel's guys. Like, whenever I would go out there back when I was a fighter, he's a big heavyweight guy, dude. He's like him, dude. My dad loves him. Like, dude, he's like, dude, everybody loves him. Like,
Yeah.
my dad goes out there to try to see him and stuff.
Yeah.
His kids are like doing great, like D1 football. Like, his one son's like about to make his decision on where he's going to go to college and stuff. Yeah, dude, he's just funny. Oh, he's on a podcast. It's called the Body Bags Podcast. It's Sean Brady and
okay.
Joe Pfeiffer, and he's on it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Dude, he's hilarious. Dude, he's so funny. Yeah, no, but so yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, he said some really nice things about you. And then one of the first things he said was he was like, because I was watching from home because I had to corner some fights the next night, and he was like, yeah, like it's really a bummer like fighting dudes who have that like long guard position. Also, he came out southpaw. I'm not sure how often James opens around southpaw.
Dude, he fought that whole fight. He went orthodox for just minuscule amounts of the fight.
But that's
so
one of
let's
the things I'm
jump
really
into
proud
it.
of. Is like our guys can switch a lot.
Well, here goes why you're going to be proud of it. His opponent after the fight, really cool dude, Kale. He's actually come down to Stout before and
cool.
like did like an open mat or whatever, and he's going to come down again whenever he's in town.
Oh, sick.
Really, yeah, dude. He was really cool, dude. Real good fighter too. But he was like, I thought you were orthodox, and I thought you were just gonna like bang it out.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And then you come out southpaw and shoot it.
Yeah.
And he was like, I was just like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, yo, that's crazy because James did not. I can't remember a time where he stood southpaw in a fight prior to this fight.
I can think of moments.
Okay, in moments, but he's
and in
definitely
training, James absolutely.
Yeah, but we see him in training. But like, you know what I mean? Like, your opponent is getting this video footage.
Exactly.
Right? So they're seeing like James's fights are available.
Yeah.
You can get them.
Yep.
You know, they're on 247's app and website. So you can get those fights. So you can see that his first, second, and third fight all were very similar.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Primarily orthodox, very heavily striking.
Yep.
Small moments of clinch.
Exactly.
Right? I don't think we got a takedown in the first 3 fights. I don't think we attempted.
Yeah.
Like, I think he I think we got 1 takedown.
Oh yeah,
the first fight.
Kama's guy, I think he got a takedown.
Now I'm confused of what fight was his first fight. I think that was his second fight. Ray Cornett.
And then his third fight was the kid who was
Adam Caldwell.
Okay, yeah, and then fourth was Chris?
Fourth was Hustleton, yeah.
Okay. What was his first fight? Whatever, it doesn't matter, but
I can't remember.
Either way,
wow.
Yeah, he
I remember, here goes one thing I do remember of his first fight. I remember after he was so happy. I'm like, oh, dude, that's awesome. You worked hard, blah, blah, blah. He's like, all right, I'll see you at the gym.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, like, it was his first fight. So he was an early fight on the card. I'm like, you're not going to hang out and watch all these fights? Like, you got a bunch of teammates fighting. He's like, I got to go to work.
Yeah.
He went to work.
Yeah.
Because he was doing night shifts. He does night shift security.
We discussed that on the pod, how awesome that is.
Yeah, he went to work. I'm like, bro, I would have been called off.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And what's cool about like James is so like the style of striking that I teach, especially for our MMA guys, it's all deception based, right? Like we are putting on a ruse, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't even matter if people know that because it's layers deep. So you might think we're going to try one thing and then maybe we actually aren't. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We've got dilemmas built in. But so like that was really important for me because I'm not like a freak athlete, right? I'm like lower tier athlete. I'm the most athletic of the unathletic guys, or I'm the least athletic of the actual athletic guys, right?
Right. Yeah.
So like I have to be like really sneaky. Dude, James is super athletic.
Yeah, he's very athletic.
Take that sneakiness and then you add it to someone who's actually athletic, and it's like, dude, that is hard to deal with.
James is a funny dude too.
Oh, he's
so
so
anyhow,
funny.
Let's get back to the fight. So, and then like I don't think he got a takedown or like we didn't commit to any like real takedowns until his fourth fight, which was against Chris Hustleton, right? Then he was getting takedowns and he was showing like some of his round skills, right? In the first 2 rounds, we were focused on top half in that fight, right? We were about, controlling the top half guard position, finding striking opportunities from there. We didn't want to pass, right? We were like, hey, we're not passing this round.
Like a Turk.
We're not passing this round. In the second round, we were considering a pass. We were like kind of playing it out. But round 1 was about don't pass. Don't pass. Sit here, cook it, build the damage and build the thought that like, hey, when I put you down and I sit here, it's my offense, right? Because what that's going to do is that's going to create 2 options for you. You can stay shelled up defensively, or you can start to risk it to try to get offensively to improve your position. And then through that risk, we find an easier alley to a more dominant position, which is why we wanted to wait on the pass until late second round or third round. He ended up getting the pass in getting the takedown half guard, passing it to Mount in the third round where he could then get the TKO, where I feel like if he would have tried to get that pass in the first round or even the first half of the second round,
given up position.
I think it would have, there was a chance it would have given up position. So there's like a tactic to it. There's a tactical rationale to it. So this fight, he comes out southpaw and he's shooting that snag single that we work on. So he's shooting that snag single. He's running it to the cage. He's using the option. He did both. He stayed on the head inside snag single on the cage, like pulling it out, like kind of like crackdown, and also pulling it out, re-engaging, locking the hands for the double, right? And our thing was, I was like, dude, we're going to play top turtle, and we're not putting hooks in.
Yeah.
We're not putting hooks in. We're not, don't take the back.
Yeah.
Stay top turtle. We're here. We're underneath the armpit.
Yep.
We're over top. We're getting cross wrists. You get a cross wrist, it gives you so much control in that turtle position. You stay opposite your cross wrist. You have a free striking hand, and now their only option is to cross block.
And then they don't have a base.
Yeah, and then they don't have a base. So the one thing I was like, hey man, we got to get them moving. When you're there, you don't just like stay there. You strike them down. Boom.
Right.
Shake them down. Boom. Like challenge his base.
Yeah.
You know? And then in the second round, we go in. I'm like, all right, hey, throw one. Like, if you see an opening, let's start filling out. Let's throw one hook in.
Okay.
That way we can always disengage. And then the third round, I was like, get the back, take the back, flatten them out. You know. So it's one of the cool things is, so they were right up against the fence, right near us. And I was talking to his opponent afterwards, and this was like super important, like that his opponent was such a cool dude because you know, gaining info,
right,
and stuff. That can help, like when you, especially at the amateur level, you know, I mean, I guess you like kind of want to like feel out like who you want to like help or whatever, but this dude was just a salt of the earth dude. So like just like giving some like feedback back and forth. Oh, you felt really good here and this here and like stuff, because there's stuff that you might not be realizing.
Right.
So one of the things is like, imagine turtle, right? And you're like in a position controlling your riding, and you're going under the armpit for uppercuts, right? I'm calling them left and right, right? And James confesses to me after the fight that he's just like thought that those were like stay busy punches, to like not
get a stand up.
It's like, oh, stay busy punches, right? And I'm like, bro, those are like those punches are for real, right? And then his opponent Kale comes over and he goes, you know what was really, really fucking me up was those uppercuts underneath the arm. And James just looks at me like, no way. And I'm like, yeah, dude.
Yeah, James is hilarious.
Like, yeah. And he goes, yeah, because they were right against me. He was like, yeah, and like we were right there and you were calling them, and I was like, damn it. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. But James ends up, like I said, like, you know, following the game plan, you know,
Gets
no hooks first round, one hook second round, just to feel how we can enter and exit, and then like finishing, and like it cooks, it wears. It's a battle of attrition. You know, you're putting money in the bank each round. You're putting money in the bank, and then 2 hooks second round, and like he's ground and pounding, and I was like, please stop punching. Submission, please stop, because I had Vince fanny packed up his purple belt, and I was like, I'm not giving you, like,
he doesn't need a submission.
He doesn't know this, but I am not putting a purple belt on you in the cage unless it comes from a submission. Like if you win by knockout, then I mean, we'll see.
Great, but
we'll see at belt promotions, brother. Like, you know what I mean? And it's not like when I like my decision was made. Like, you're a purple belt. Yeah. You know, like I've been training you in grappling for coming up on 5 years now. You know, you train with Logan. You train with a lot of people. You're a purple. I know your jiu-jitsu. You're a purple belt. But the presentation of it has to accompany a submission, or it's going to be at the ceremony with everyone else. Yeah. You know? So he got the rear naked choke in the third, which was sick. So I could like...
And it was cool because you hadn't told me ahead of time. So
the only person who knew was Vince.
That was awesome because I'm watching a live stream and I see a purple and I'm like...
I needed help.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? I was like, Vince... So Vince was running down the gym, and I was like, grab an A3 purple belt. He's like, all right, got it. And then Vince wears a fanny pack, which was super clutch. Yeah, everybody's going to be paying, all the fighters are going to be paying attention to Vince's fanny pack from now on. They're going to be like, what's in there?
I can also attest to the fact that you have, at other times, had a purple belt prepared. And
I've had belts prepared. I've had, I mean, literally in 2023, I had 2 belts with me at the cage. In 2023, and none of them went out. Yeah. Yep. At least 2. I might have had a third. I can't remember what I did for that person, but none of them ended up going out because those fights didn't end by submission. As much as I pled to stop punching. Yeah. Stop punching. Here go style fighters. You hear me ask you to stop punching? I got something for you.
You better slap on a choke real fast.
I'm like, you're going to win this fight regardless. Let's do it with submission. Yeah. Oh, God.
So awesome.
Yeah, but James, like, quietly, under the radar. I mean, I can't think of anybody else. Most dominant fighter, amateur fighter in South PGH history. Yeah. 5-0, 5 finishes, 2 knockouts, 2 KOs.
Yeah.
KOs. Then 2 TKOs and 1 submission. got himself an amateur title belt. He fought in 2 different weight classes. And, now he's going to move on to bigger and better things. Sadly enough, he's not going to be with us anymore. James is moving on out east, which is great. Back with his family, getting back. Like, he'll be, more time with his family and stuff. He's been here training away from his family, doing what he needed to do to get to this point, in his personal life and stuff like that. So he's going to be out with his family. He's going to have tremendous training.
Yep.
I know he's going to end up at, I'm 99% sure he's going to be at Ricardo Almeida's, which is
great gym.
Tremendous gym. Which is also like in the
all
those
family.
all those Jersey Henzo gyms. They're all like, in fact, a lot of the Jersey Henzo gyms are Henzo gyms from Ricardo.
Right.
Like Ricardo is was Henzo's like main dude, right?
Yeah.
And then these are a bunch of Ricardo's guys,
right?
Like Nick Catone and stuff. So he's going to have phenomenal training out there, So opportunities are going to get bigger and better for him. We're very happy for him. It's not the last time we're going to see him. He'll be around and stuff like that. But, great things for him moving forward. And,
Absolutely.
It was an honor. It was an honor to coach him. Although it was frustrating at times. Like during a lot of practices when I had to yell. I probably yelled at James. He, not only is he has had the best amateur career in Style PGH history, he may have been yelled at the most.
I 100% agree. But also, that's a good thing for James. You know why? Because that means we actually care enough to...
Yeah, that's true, too. That is true. But I'm trying to think, like...
Mid-practice, I have 100% yelled at James more than anyone else.
I've yelled at James more. Yeah, I think James is my number one person that I've yelled at.
And I don't really yell during practice much.
I am a little bit of a yeller. I feel like it's just like, it's almost like part of my shtick, But James, it's like I didn't have to like work for it. It came out very naturally. Getting pissed at him came very easy. What are you doing? Yeah, dude. Oh, great.
Oh, James, we love you.
Yep, love you. Gonna miss you, buddy.
Best of luck.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, hey, off of Goat James, let's move on to the very next night.
We had the first caged Muay Thai event in PA history.
Yeah.
It was for GFC out in State College. And we had 3 of our guys on it. We had Josh Donahue, Jesse the Dr. Sadu, and Brody Harris.
Nice.
They fought in that order. So we'll just go through it in that order.
Let's do it.
So Josh, he fought Josh has had like the worst record of people falling out on him, right? Like,
yeah.
Josh should have like 10 fights by now, but people just like don't want to fight him, right? Which I get. Like, he's a tough, strong, scary dude, right? And he's like 6'2", fighting 175. Like that can be scary. So he had another opponent fall out like a week before, and they were GFC's like, hey, we really don't want this to fall off. We have our guy who's 0-0, and like I guess they'd had a hard time matching him up. I was like, I don't really care who it is. Like, let's go. This kid's 6'5", 20 years old, beast. You know what I mean? They have a great fight. Basically, the entire kind of theme of it, or storyline, I guess, of the fight can be kind of, distilled down to Josh landing big punches, right? And his opponent framing out in the clinch, or maybe more so holding him in the clinch while Josh is trying to frame out and staying kind of in this long clinch range for extended periods, and sometimes getting smushed into the cage and landing like little pitter patter knees, which scored much more heavily. And again, other things happen, but that's kind of like the major themes. And Josh spent too much time in that clinched up position, eating those knees, and so unfortunately lost. But it was a good fight.
What's funny about that fight, so I was able to watch it via a Zach live stream, was like, like just judging like a book by its cover, I would assume that the strategy would be to get inside of this longer fighter.
Right.
Whereas it felt like Josh had the best results on the outside.
Yeah, and what's crazy is with Josh being 6'2", fighting 175, is 99% of the time I'm like, dude, we're going to post out. I need you to stay longer with your punches. And on this one, I was like, dude, do what you normally do. Just walk forward, land your short, powerful punches. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, his outside striking looked great. His opponent was really, really good. And like I said, apparently had like a really hard time getting fights. So, it was a good fight. Unfortunately, he lost. Also, they kind of really highlighted. We're seeing a little bit of a change, even in like more regional, local level Muay Thai,
of the judging.
of the judging and the reffing too. Whereas in the past, I looked at like Muay Thai and then American Muay Thai as being like separate sport, and they kind of are still, but like
but they're now trying to, like, it seems like American scoring is starting to
more
like
towards
slide towards
body kicks, clinch knees, scoring significantly higher. And also Bazooka Joe was the ref, which, by the way, Bazooka Joe, you're an awesome Thai ref. And he's letting things go longer in the clinch,
which is awesome.
Yeah, super awesome. He's like, hey, as long as you're active, I'll let you go.
Hell yeah.
I normally really, really love. And I shouldn't say normally. I love that.
Whether it goes against us or for us.
Exactly. Yeah, like that's how it's supposed to be. Whereas kind of some MMA refs and stuff, they clinch 2-3 seconds. All right, let's break it up. You know what I mean? I'm like, nah, they're still going. So we're starting to see that lean towards like more of the Thai style. So we may need to make some adjustments there. But either way, good fight. Next one up, Jesse the Doctor.
What's his record?
He's now 4-0.
4-0.
Dude.
4-0.
Jesse's incredible. And not only that, Jesse's fought good dudes.
Yeah.
He fought a guy
his debut was I don't want to mess his up. Anthony, I'm going to say Jurgle, but he's he was like an undefeated amateur MMA fighter.
Mm-hmm.
I saw him at, I want to say No-Gi Pans. I think he was in the finals, right? And now I at least know he was at least 1-0 as a pro. Right?
Yeah, legit fighter, right?
Yeah.
Jesse beat him. He beat a hometown kid at one of the fights who cut like 20 pounds or something. He was massive and jacked.
Was that out?
Yeah. And he beat another kid who was like, I want to say a WKA champ or something like that. And then this last opponent was really good too. And Jesse's just like, man, it's incredible. He just keeps dominating. And
would you say like it's his positioning?
Bro, okay, it's positioning. It's like strike selection. It's timing, because he's not the fastest guy. I mean, look, Jesse's not going to be upset if I say this. Jesse's not like a freak athlete.
No. He's not an athlete. He's not an athlete.
He's 4-0. He's an athlete. He's not like a freak athlete. You know what I mean? He also started. he started doing martial arts like pretty late. I want to say he was like 28, 29, right?
Yeah.
But his understanding of all the concepts and everything is just like, he catches on to it so well, and he makes good decisions and constantly dominates position, and he's relentless. Like, he is willing to make himself completely exhausted to just drown his opponent. It's so cool. So he goes out.
Also, I've seen him win with different strategies too. Right?
Sort of.
Wasn't the one fight, I believe it was his second fight, like very clinch, like just ripping the clinch.
Yeah.
And then this fight was a little bit more of like open stance.
Yeah, it's generally open stance for him, but how do I say this without giving away too much?
Give it away. He's undefeated. No one can beat him.
The strategy for him doesn't change that much, but he just has like a couple of things that he's really, really good at that so far no one's been able to touch him with. You know what I mean? And like, he just like dominates everything that he needs to dominate, and just chooses not to engage in anything he's not gonna dominate.
That's it right there.
Yeah, that is it.
That's efficiency.
It sure is. And you might think of like, oh, if someone has like an efficient style, you might think of that like that equates to boring. Not at all. He is like so fast paced. He was ripping head kicks.
An efficient style is just you participating in the fight in the areas that benefit you.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And man, does Jesse do that. And I'm just like so impressed with him. And
like, play the percentages.
Exactly. That's what you should do.
Yeah.
And Jesse does that. And like, because he's so good at understanding it, that's one of the reasons he's such a great teammate. You know what I mean? Like, he regularly gets, really all of our high level guys love having him hold pads. They love training with him because he has that fight IQ. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's really cool to see.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
It's very impressive. And I was just really fired up about that fight. And yeah, it's a fun one.
I mean,
to
like,
watch
he's
back.
just like the perfect example, and that's why I love to like make fun of his lack of athleticism. Yeah, okay, obviously he's not like a terrible athlete,
Right.
but he's certainly not a great athlete, right? So it's like proof in the pudding, like technique and tactics.
Yes,
You know what I
100%,
mean?
100%.
Right? Like, he's not like overly physically imposed. Like, he's been by the eyeball test. Every fight that he's had by the eyeball test, you look at them and like their face off. Oh, that dude's gonna
Right.
ass whoop.
Yeah.
And he wins.
Yup.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's so great. And like
And I mean
dominant
that
wins,
as like
stoppages.
I mean that as like a diss. Not like, I'm talking shit. You know? Like, some people could be like, oh, that's a compliment to his like technique and skills and tactic. I am using it as like, you know, I'm not talking kindly.
Oh, that's hilarious. So yeah, Jesse's killing it. Shout outs to the doctor. That was incredible. Last fight that we had on the card, Brody Harris, our 2-sport champion. He went into that fight, 6-0-1, I believe. And the problem with Brody is that he's just been killing everybody.
Right.
And we've, had a hard time finding him fights. We've had people who dropped out. We had a lot of people say no. And so, like, yeah, we've had a hard time finding him fights. And also, even when he does get fights, like at TBA, you know, no offense to his opponent, but like he just shredded that guy. You know what I mean? And he shredded the guy before that. And he stopped, I think, the 2 guys before that or whatever. Like, he's just wrecking dudes. You know what I mean? And as much as we always are like, hey, we can improve in everything, really, if he's not being challenged, I don't know exactly what needs to be worked on, right?
Right.
So a lot of those problems were solved with this fight. 1, the guy said yes. That was fantastic. 2, great opponent. Also a TBA champ, right? Or TBA tournament of champions. I don't know if people want to consider those different things, whatever. Also undefeated. He'd previously beaten Ty, right?
Yeah.
So I had, you know, direct coaching experience against him. And we're, you know, familiar with their team and their coaches
Right.
and everything. I'd seen him fight a bunch, so I knew he was really good. This was, as kind of a policy, you know this, but like, I don't really do film work for amateurs, because when I do film work, I mean, maybe I'll like watch a fight, like give you some notes or whatever, but probably not. But like, if I'm gonna do film work, I go in depth, and I did film work for this fight because this guy's really good. And yeah, he pushed Brody, like, and that was one of the things I really wanted, was this guy. I knew he was going to go hard for 3 rounds, no matter what. He's going hard, even if he gets hurt, whatever. And that's what happened. He got hurt early and just kept going.
Yeah.
So basically, I can kind of sum it up like this: round 1 is Brody doing what Brody does, right? He's boxing, hitting his weird angles, you know, ripping some power shots. He hit some big elbows. Just that dynamic kickboxing, you know. Weird style that like nobody, like, there's not even a lot of pros right now that can hang with Brody for like the first 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're kind of screwed there. He's so dynamic. He's so powerful. And that's the other thing, dude. The kid kicks so hard. It's unbelievable how powerful he is. And he's tall. So they kind of met in the middle. Brody won whatever weight class. This kid won the one below, I believe. And they kind of met in the middle. So, you know, Brody's 6'3", maybe even taller. And he's fighting 172. You know what I mean? And he's powerful. You know what I mean? So, anyways,
172, day of weigh-ins.
Yeah, he weighed in like, you know, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours before his fight.
Yeah.
So he's like a massive, imposing dude at this, you know, weight class, and long. And so he's, you know, using that technique from the outside. It was beautiful. Cracked his guy. He hit him with a rear teep right in the face. Kid's lip busted up. In my mind, you know, very clearly his round. Round 2, and when they did clinch, the other thing was, so his opponent's really good in the clinch, right?
Yeah.
And forces the clinch a lot. When they did clinch, Brody neutralized it really well every time, right? And just like got top position and just weighed on him and pushed him into the fence, you know? And it's difficult to work with your back against the fence, especially compared to ropes, because they don't, you know, bounce as much. You don't have as much space to sneak in little knees and stuff. So awesome first round. Second round, a lot more of the same, but now in the clinch, his opponent's starting to land a couple more knees and such. Now, personally, I still think that he won the second round. Doesn't matter what I think. 2 of the judges did not think that he won that.
Well, one judge did.
Yeah, one judge did. And his opponent did do some really great things. Like there's one sequence where his back's against the cage and he made some adjustments instead of kind of just like being stuck there. He would go knee shield, not like defensively, but to open up space and then step down and knee with the other side. Just started to make some adjustments. It started to have a little bit easier time getting into the clinch, right?
Right.
Again, I still think Brody won that round. With his kickboxing, he landed some good elbows again in the clinch. But again, two of the judges did not see that, or maybe they thought it was the first round. Who knows? But logically, that would make sense.
Right.
And then the third round, Brody was exhausted, which also a good thing. We'll talk about that in a minute. And he didn't take any damage, but his opponent was able to control the clinch a lot better in that round, and really used his pace and pressure to win those clinch exchanges, and clearly took that round. So then we go to the decision. It's a split decision. Goes to his opponent. It doesn't matter if I agree or not, because again, we're at that level. If it was his first fight, I'd be so bummed. I'd be like, oh, this kid's so talented, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
But having all the success he has, not that I'm not bummed. Obviously, I wish he had won that. But I'm like, that's not what we're not here to just pick up a W, right? It's not like we just need. It's not MMA. It's not like, there's gonna be like Bellator or UFC scouts there, and they're looking for who's gonna get this W. Like, that's not what's important. What's important was the experience we got. And again, I got data as a coach. I have so many things now. I'm like, oh, okay, we're going to work on this. We're going to work on this. Yeah. And like these things specifically, and like techniques that are specific. And it's just, I got so much out of that fight that's going to like really propel him. Not to mention, Brody's a legit like athlete and competitor. Like, he's not going to like that loss. He's going to, I would not want to be the next guy who fights him.
Right, yeah.
Overall, great fight. His opponent's super skilled. That's, there's nothing wrong with losing a split decision to that guy. They're both going to go on to be, pros, I'd imagine.
Because I think his opponent is now 10-0.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. Phenomenal fight. Again, we got the data we needed from it. I spoke with the opponent afterwards, got some, again, more data. I know Brody spoke with him as well. And like Muay Thai, they tend to be even friendlier. Even like local MMA, they're pretty friendly. But like even Muay Thai, it's even more so. Yeah. And I'm sure he got, like James did, some really good feedback from that fight. So like, again, does it sting to take an L? Yes. But overall, is it just a good thing? Like, absolutely. That fight was phenomenal. So, shout out to all those guys. Great weekend of fights.
Yeah.
And,
Good. Proud of them.
So speaking of Muay Thai,
so do you want to run there?
I would like to run there.
All right.
It's not going to take too long, but
let's do it.
We kind of discuss every once in a while. We'll talk about like stadium Muay Thai or authentic Muay Thai.
Is that why you wore that stadium shirt? What stadium did you get that shirt from?
My sister gave this to me well after Three Rivers was destroyed, but
did you get to experience Three Rivers?
I did. As a very young lad.
Yeah.
I don't remember it that well. I remember it going down.
Oh, I remember it.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember.
No doubt. You know what that's from?
No.
There's that Schultz bit where he's like...
Oh, no, I don't know.
Okay, I'll tell you later. It doesn't matter. But anyways, yeah, so we talk about stadium Muay Thai, and like it's kind of this like weird, mysterious thing. And even to me, and I'm a striking coach, it's still like a weird, mysterious thing. I know so much more about the scoring now than I did even like 5 years ago, and it still doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'm not super familiar with all the stars and everything, but there's some really exciting stuff happening in stadium Muay Thai.
All right, tell me, lay it on me.
So again, there's a lot of things. I'm really only going to touch on two of them. Number one, there's a kid named Kunsuklek who's 19 years old. He's
19.
The current Raja Bantamweight Stadium champ, right? So Rajadamnern is one of the two big stadiums in...
What's the other big stadium?
Lumpini. So they're the two biggest ones in Bangkok, and those are like the really prestigious... is it prestigious or prestigious? It doesn't matter.
Whatever.
Titles, right? And so he's the bantamweight, which is 118 champ there. He's also the Thailand champ and the Omnoy Stadium champ, which is just like a slightly different lower level thing. But what's really incredible is, okay, so he's 19 years old, right? Which again to us sounds like wild, but that's kind of like a normal peaking time for them, especially for in the stadium circuit. What's crazy? Well, before I get into the crazy part, his record on Wikipedia it says 81-6-3, but when I looked at like the Rajadamnern broadcast, it would put him at 82-8-2. Either way.
Okay, so it's fairly close.
Yeah, pretty close. Somewhere in that range. But what's crazy is he is on a 41 fight undefeated streak.
No way.
Right? And like in the stadiums, that's so rare. Because again, it's like what we talked about, that level, the secondary guys are so close. So it's like, it's wild to have an undefeated streak that long at that level. You know what I mean? And I believe, and I couldn't find it last night when I was making these notes, I got stuck watching fights and stuff. But if you compare his streak to even some of the legendary streaks of the past, I think CJI had 2 of them in the stadiums where it was like, 20-some fights or something like that. And I think Diesel Noy had a crazy one. I believe Kunstwerk Lex is the longest one out of all of them.
So here we go. Modern times, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, so maybe we're seeing less evolution right now. I don't know. But either way, maybe we're seeing more evolution than I previously thought. I don't know. But either way, this kid is phenomenal. And he has that style that like a lot of the Thais like. They call it Muay for more, where he's like the technical outside fighter, like Cianchai, as opposed to like a Muay Cow fighter who's just like, like think Pechmunchu, Diesel Noy, just clench and crush people. And they consider that kind of like a prettier style.
Yeah.
And it's definitely cooler, and man, just recently, I forget if it was his last fight against Petchiam or I forget, it doesn't matter who he's fighting, but dude, there's this crazy kick exchange where he throws a kick, dude throws a kick back, catch, throw him back. And you know how like in stadium Muay Thai, you get more of those like catch, kick, return, kick type, like wild strings back and forth that you would never see in like MMA or even, obviously in kickboxing without catching. And dude, at the end of it, he goes body, 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 and then bong, just jumps up. He's like, his planted foot's barely on the floor, if at all. Head kick KOs this dude. Like, he is phenomenal. And again, to be head kick KOing dudes at 118 pounds, like,
yo, yeah,
sick. So, just thought that like people should be aware of that, because I was talking with some of our guys and I was like, yo, like I'm not like super into the stadium scene, but like I'll see things on Instagram and stuff, and I've seen this kid around. And then like seeing this wild streak, I'm like, yo, that's wild. And I'll be talking with our guys, I'll be like, yo, you been seeing Kunstwerk Lex? And they're like, who? And I'm like, we should talk about this. Like this dude,
it's legit. Crazy. It's like, dude, that's just like common right now in like combat sports, is like not knowing the next levels or like who you should be knowing, right? And like, could you imagine like a little kid, like our kid playing basketball in like middle school, and then you'd be like, yeah, like LeBron James? He's like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, that's so much more common in combat sports.
Dude, it's super common in wrestling, which it's gotten less common now. It's like, and I have a lot of opinions on like the tech age, right? So that's a subject that we should touch on for a whole podcast. So but like there's kids who like Ed Ruth. Ed Ruth is like an all-timer, right? 3-time NCAA champ for Penn State, made the 2014 World Team. He only had 2 career losses in his college career. Oh, excuse me. And he was going to Penn State when Kale got hired there. And Kale is the only 4-time undefeated champ, like Olympic champ, like the most prominent name in the sport. And he was like, he didn't know who he was.
It's so nuts.
He was like, we're getting a new coach, Kel Sanderson. Oh, who's that? Like Michael Jordan?
Yeah. Crazy.
And he's at the level of like, hey, this dude's gonna be your coach,
right?
Like it's not like you were like in 3rd grade and like you like don't even know what's going on. Like you're just picking daisies in the outfield,
or like this, where it's like this kid is having this run right now, but it's on the other side of the world. You know what I mean? It's like this is in your backyard,
right? Yeah, but like it's just like people don't even know.
You
know, like how many times do we talk to our fighters? We'll be like, oh yeah, remember like like Rich Franklin, and they're like, who? And they're like, dude, come on, man. Like, you're disgusting.
Yeah, you got to know this stuff.
No, you know your history.
But anyways, so just want to keep everyone informed on this wild run we're seeing. And then the other thing, and again, there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on, but I really just boiled it down to these 2. So in Rajadamnern, right, they have various promotions that run shows within that, right? So they have like, I think they have one that they call like their knockout show, and they do like,
so what promotion is he the champion of?
I think it's RWS, Rajadamnern World Series, and I think that's what that's the Raja belt, right?
Okay.
I could be off on that, dude. So even I barely, know the ins and outs of it. I was just telling you about that weird fact earlier.
That's what I'm trying to pull out of you.
Oh, gotcha. There's, and I might be a little off on this, but from what I understand, it's kind of unrelated to anything else we're going to talk about. If you're a Raja champ, it doesn't mean that you can't go fight like in other promotions and stuff.
Right, it'd be like being a UFC champ and be like, yeah, I'm gonna go do a fight in PFL.
Exactly. So like they're allowed to do that from what I understand. They're even allowed to lose and still retain their title
As long as they don't get knocked out.
As long as they don't get knocked out, because then they take it away, which I think is kind of cool. You know
So if they get knocked out, then it's a vacant title.
Right.
If they lose, it's still their title because the fight wasn't for that title.
Right.
Now here's the thing: doesn't matter what weight class.
Oh, that
Like, for example, Izzy went up and fought for the 205 belt.
Right.
He's the 185 champ, and he lost, but he didn't lose his belt because that's not the weight class he was defending.
I don't know. Again,
Yeah, dude.
I'm a striking coach, and I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's a really cool thing. And, like, the fact that it's, like, culturally tied. There's just, like, lots of cool stuff here. But anyways.
I'm interested.
So they have all these different promotions within the one stadium. And, dude, I'm not even talking about Lumpini, right? Like, this is all...
Yeah, just Raja.
Yeah. Like, that's how much, like, is going on that, like, we're not discussing. But anyway, so they have these different promotions. One of them, I think they call it, like, the knockout, and they do, like, three rounds instead of 5 to encourage, you know, more knockouts. They have, like, the classic stuff. They have all this stuff, but they also are doing the RWS, Rajadamnern World Series, tournaments. And they've been doing these tournaments in the past, and it's, like, the champ of
Tell me about
champs
it.
and stuff. Dude, okay, so they do it for a bunch of different weight classes, right? Not all of their weight classes. Which, by the way, they do recognize more weight classes than they did in the past. And it's crazy. You see, like, the smallest weight class, I think it's like 105. You look at, like, the top 10 rankings, all ties. You go all the way up to, like, 130 or something like that. And it's like, oh, maybe there's, you know, I think there's, like, 2 Japanese dudes in one. And there's, like, whatever. And then you start making your way to the top. And it's like, I think the highest weight they have is, like, 160. And the champ is a British kid. And, like, half of the guys in the top 10 rankings are foreigners and stuff. But, anyways, the one weight class I want to talk about is the tournament for super welterweight, which is 154 pounds. So it's an exciting division. There's, I think, 8 guys in this tournament.
Super welterweight's 154.
Yep.
And the heaviest weight class is 160.
They have a belt for, but they do have weight classes above that.
Okay.
So, you know, I might go to Raja and win, you know, 1,000 fights at 175, but I'm never going to be a Raja champ because they just don't recognize that weight class. And they have, I think their heavyweight is like above, or no, their super heavyweight is like above 210 or something like that. I think it's like above 210, then under that would be heavyweight. 190, I think, is cruiserweight, then like 180-ish, something like that, 75. It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
But anyways, so in the super welterweight, right, it's big enough, 154. Like, these are dudes who can crack, right? Yeah. But it's also small enough that there's a lot of, like, the really talented ties. Because, again, if we get too high, like, they're just foreigners, and the talent level generally goes down. I think we'll see that change. But anyways, super exciting. There's 8 guys in it. I'm only going to talk about 3 of them because you might know some of them.
Is this a one-night tournament?
No, it is not, which I think is the right move. So, okay, first guy I'm going to talk about, a kid named Daniel Rodriguez. Excuse me. He's a Swiss dude, right? I think he's like ethnically Dominican or something like that. But Swiss dude, he was on a 41 fight win streak when he was the champ there, right? Which is one, just wild, right? Wait, does that match?
That matches, but like 40. Here goes the difference.
Oh, it might not have all been in the stadium.
Yeah, he was on a 41 fight win streak when he was the champ there. He could have been the champ for like 8 fights there.
I think it was only like 2, to be honest.
Okay, yeah, but also, the example is
in the stadiums.
Your other guy was 41 in that ring, that stadium.
I don't know if they were all in that stadium, but it's at like stadium level, right? Is kind of like what I gathered from my research. And that's the other thing is like, I'm sure there's dudes who are like super experts in there who are like, oh no, this fight doesn't count. You know what I mean? But like, this is what I'm getting as a Westerner, right? But anyways, Daniel Rodriguez is still wild, even if it's outside of Thailand. 41 fight win streak. He was the 13th non-Thai Raja champ, right?
Okay.
So like, he's one of a couple handfuls of dudes who are at this level. So what really makes this interesting is he had just lost his championship belt in a pretty close fight to a guy he'd fought multiple times before, named Yodwicha, who is doing the welterweight tournament. So Yodwicha went down a weight class for the tournament, and now he like doesn't have his chance at like redemption, right? But he's still in this tournament, so he could like go back and like get like the be the champ of champs, right? So that's a real interesting storyline right there.
So is the other dude vacating the super welterweight belt then?
I'm not sure how that works. I don't know if like this championship is for that belt or if it's the way that Pride did it, where they would do their like tournaments,
Like Grand Prix champ.
yeah, and that's like
versus an
separate
actual
from.
champ.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up. So then the next guy we're going to talk about is Thananchai. Now this dude beat Yodwicha to become the champ. So Yodwicha beats Daniel Rodriguez.
Oh, so now this dude's the champ.
Exactly. Now Thananchai also has a win over Pech Morikat. Right?
It's like Strickland beating Izzy, and then Duplessis beating Strickland, and now Izzy's fighting. Yeah.
So he has a win over Pech Morikat, which is cool. That's he's like one of the head guys at the gym that we trained at on the Stout Thailand trip. Big, tall dude. Like there's a video of me clinching with him. He's like not quite my size, but he's like not far off. And he has a win also. Thananchai has a win over Gabriel Pereira, who's another guy who's in this tournament. Now here's where things get interesting. Thananchai also has a loss to Daniel Rodriguez. So that rock, paper, scissors is complete.
Oh, wow.
And you want to know something crazy? Guess who Daniel Rodriguez is fighting in the first round of the tournament? Thananchai, yeah.
Dang.
So
yeah,
like,
I said his name almost right?
Yeah, dude.
Dang.
And like, bro, how crazy is that? The three guys we're going to talk about, I'm pretty sure one of them is going to be the one who wins the whole thing.
They haven't been in the first round. They seem like they should be they probably don't seed this. They probably just like write their name.
They're probably just like, let's go. You know what I mean? So like, that's really interesting. So then the last guy that we're going to talk about is Ritwada, right? And one of the reasons I want to talk about
Is he a rapper?
Is unfortunately not. Well, I don't know. Maybe he is.
Rich Wada?
Rich Wada. So
got that Rich Wada.
So Ritwada is also a Pechindi fighter. So like when we were there training, he's like, you know, I'm sure there's video of like him training next to Brody. You know what I mean? Like, so like it's kind of cool to have that like personal connection. He's also really good. And he's the former welterweight champ who's moving up in weight. Yeah. So now we've got like all these champs. We've got that whole rock, paper, scissors thing.
See, that's the cool thing about having multiple weight class, like weight classes a little closer.
Yeah.
Is it's easier for like you to get more matchups, right?
And in Muay Thai, where they fight, like, you know, they'll fight. I think one of the guys, it might have actually been Yodwicha. He just fought in a multi-fight one-night tournament and won it like 2 weeks ago, and he's about to have this fight.
Right.
Like, so you get all these interesting matchups.
You get all these interesting matchups, and like imagine there were more weight classes in MMA. Like what you see in boxing is like you see people grow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, he used to fight at 134, and now he fights at 142, and then next thing you know, 3 years later, he's fighting at 149.
Yeah, or the guy, how about like James Toney or like Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah.
Who like they start at like, whatever, 140 or something, and they work all the way up to heavyweight,
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, we see a lot of that in Muay Thai where like you can get champ versus champ matchups.
Right.
Like,
But then in MMA, like it's like, okay, going from 155 to 170, that's like takes like time.
Yeah.
Or
even 125 to 135. That's such a massive percentage of their body weight.
And it just takes time. It's like, oh, it would be sick if there was like, like a 163.
Yeah.
That I could stop off at for 2 years and then go 170.
In Raja, from the bottom weight class to the next up weight class, you know what the jump is?
3 pounds.
105 to 108.
Yep.
Yeah, dude. So like you're gonna see a lot of that bouncing around, and that's how you also get the guys who, like we were talking about, grow. And obviously they're Thais tend to be smaller dudes, so like you'll see like, oh, he was like the 118-pound champ and whatever. Like Pech Morikat, right? Yeah. Relatively close to me in size. I would say he's maybe like 5'10", 5'11", and I think he was walking around at like 177, right? He was either a Raja or Lumpini champ at like 120.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like. That's so crazy. And then he went on to become a one champion at 155. You know? So yeah, it's super cool to see these matchups and everything. So, a lot of these fights from Raja you can watch on YouTube, right? Like you can watch the Yodwicha Daniel Rodriguez fight. They get uploaded pretty quickly. Some of them you can even watch live. I've done that before on YouTube and stuff. So
just like in the morning.
Yeah, and even if you catch them later, it's just cool that you have access to.
So I think what's probably also cool about the environment right now, with it being, like you said, like,
and English announcers.
Oh, there's English announcers. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's even cooler. So you're at I think you're at like a prime time for not needing to watch them live.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
because like it's not getting like there was the WNO on last night, who's number one on last night, and I'm like, getting home from the gym a little late, right? And it started at 8. I'm getting home. By the time I'm like, ready to turn it on, it's like 9:20, and I'm like, man, I don't want to like. So I got to stay off social media.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I can't go on
exactly.
social media. I got to watch. I got to have my text. I got to see the name before I read the text. Like, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. So like right now, it's not like it's like being blown up on your social media to where like.
In my algorithm, I would probably find out pretty quickly because I follow like the stadium and everything.
Yeah.
But still, I like, you could very easily watch it the next morning or night or whatever it is and make it work. But either way, it's just something fun that I think some of our guys could maybe like dip their toes into a little
I think
bit,
they should.
and watch some of these fights. And you don't have to become I'm not even like, to be honest, like a massive Muay Thai fan. I don't know all these guys. I wasn't familiar with a lot of the other guys in the bracket and stuff. But it's good to be tapped in slightly and just to see that level,
Yeah.
which I think is really cool. And also some of the cultural differences, not that it necessarily matters for like our MMA fighters and stuff, but it's just cool to, again, know the history of this sort of stuff. And I think that this tournament's going to be, especially this weight class,
I just couldn't like
really
it brings
exciting.
so much knowing the history and like having the back brings so much joy to me. I just couldn't understand like how you wouldn't
yeah.
want to engage with that.
Like, okay, imagine if I was like, yo, dude, next Friday, you want to come over at like 10 a.m. and let's watch this Daniel Rodriguez Thananchai fight. You'd be like, nah, dude. But now that you know this, you might be like,
I'm
oh
interested.
yeah, let's watch that. So
I would like to see the tournament play out.
yeah, for sure. So we'll see how that works out. And then there's some foreigners in there. There's some guys who train at like Venom. I think there's a Russian guy in there, that Brazilian dude I talked about. So like it's going to be pretty interesting. With that said, that's my prediction. I think one of those three is going to win. I think Daniel Rodriguez, Thananchai, or Rich Wada are going to win.
Rich Waters.
Rich Wada.
Rich Water.
Rich Water.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's cool. So, I mean, we'll keep up on that. We'll do updates on this tournament. We'll keep you guys up to date on the Craig Jones Invitational. We'll talk ADCC, things of that nature, see how those things compare, what's happening there. And we'll catch you next time. This was another tremendous episode of Listen to Your Coaches.